Good afternoon guys, how are you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. I've got my hat on my head because it's blinking freezing tonight. It really is, it's so cold. This week's weather has been rubbish, hasn't it? Just grey and cold. And I've had enough. I need spring to turn up, I really do. I need the sun to reappear, I need it to warm up, and then I'll be happy again because yeah, I obviously work outside because I work with horses and not happy, not been enjoying it in the slightest. Anyway, I've got a lovely video for you this week. I've so enjoyed researching it because it is on my most favourite childhood toy, and that was Julip horses. I love them. I spent hours and hours playing with them, and yeah, adored them. I think I was quite late to the game when I started playing with them actually. I think I might have been 8. And I happened to find them at my gran's house. I was doing a bit of snooping, which you should never do, and did get in a lot of trouble for doing. But she had a window seat in one of the bedrooms, and I had never realised that it was hollow. And one day it clicked, and I remember taking the cushions off, pulling up the kind of seat of it, and finding the Julips inside, and it was instant love. I was like, how did I not know about this toy? And these were Julip originals that were my mum and my aunt's. And I reckon they were from the late 1960s, I'd say. And yeah, I had to kind of, you know, really persuade my gran to let me have them. She didn't seem too impressed, but thankfully my mum went, okay, you can have them. And that is where my love for them started. And then I spent my pocket money on the more modern Julip. And there's a really lovely story to it and lots of things that I didn't know about Julip. So I hope you enjoy listening to this. If you've got them in your attic, you might want to keep listening because the Julip originals are worth so much money. I never knew. Hundreds. So keep listening and let me know in the comments, did you play with them as a child? I think if you were pony obsessed, you might well have done. So Julips were established in 1945 by Lavender Dower, and initially she made them from chamois leather and lead that she found in sort of bombed buildings because of obviously World War II. It was about 5 years later when she started making them from latex. So she'd sort of have the lead wire, which was great because it made the horse's legs be able to be bent and so on. And then she'd use a latex body for them. One of the things I think makes Julip so special is that they were all hand painted. And that made them so unique, very individual. No two Julips were the same, and it gave them so much character. And I really remember, I think that's what I loved about them as personally, I thought they looked like an actual pony. But secondly, they were nothing like you would see in the toy shops in the 90s that were all kind of mass-produced plastic types of things. Like these were different. These were so beautiful. And like I say, they looked like an actual pony. From what I believe, there was a choice of manes. You could either have mohair or you could have like a moulded latex. Either way, their mane and tails were really realistic, very soft. Nothing like the plastic type you get nowadays. The Julips were sold in 18 Beauchamp, Knightsbridge, London. I believe lots of people have memories of visiting this shop, and as a child, it must have been the most exciting place to go to. Obviously, they didn't just make the horses, they made tack and rugs and rollers. They also made dogs and cats. I've even seen little doves that they made. And they also had like hunting sets, they had hounds, all just so beautifully crafted. I came across some lovely old Julip adverts. I'm going to guess they were from the like 1950s, 1960s. Sadly, I don't have permission to put them in my video. But on one of the adverts they wrote, a Julip model is a present that's treasured for years. And I thought that is so true. These really were treasured, loved, adored. I mean, they made pony obsessed children very happy indeed. Another thing that I loved about these adverts is they kind of set a little scene out. So they would have maybe like the hunting scene. So they have lots of little Julip ponies set out with their riders on and then the hounds around them. Or they'd have like another scene set out with a rider doing like a little bit of dressage or something. Like, I just love the way they set out their adverts and photographed them. Very clever. I've also come across an advert for the sale of the Julip company, and it said it had been established for 15 years, so that makes it 1960, and they were wanting £3,500 for the business. The business was bought by a couple and they ran it from 1960 to 1980 or the early 1980s. And from accounts that I've read, perhaps weren't the most organised. I think they ran it very similar to how Lavender had run it. They still made the Julips in latex, they were still hand painted, but maybe just not quite as organised and as well run as it had been. But like I say, they had it for a long time. So this time frame would have been when my mum purchased her Julips. Now, I haven't seen them for obviously quite some time. They are in the attic at my parents' house. But I do remember that she had a Lipizzaner Grey, which was my absolute favourite. It was such a beautiful horse. And also it looked quite prancy, and that to me looked like dressage. And I was like, I love it. She had a New Forest pony and like a little chestnutty small pony, all had quite wild hair, and they had little silver horseshoes painted on their feet. Their mouths were open a little bit. Hers were all seconds, factory seconds, and I can't be 100% sure about this, but I'm pretty sure she said she used to go to a shop in Salisbury to get them. But yeah, they'd always have like a dodgy leg, or there'd be something that wasn't quite right about them. And I definitely remember they weren't perfect, but that didn't worry me. Sadly, due to perhaps not keeping them in the best conditions. I don't think necessarily me, but I think when they were put away after my mum had played with them and then I finally found them again, I think they were by a heater because they had gone very brittle. And their legs were literally hanging off. And I remember I used to sellotape the legs onto them to keep them on, which is such a shame. Because I know if you do look after them properly and keep them in the right temperature, they will last and stay in better condition. But mine my mum's had all kind of dried out and definitely not best condition. And I know one or two of them also lost their hair because the glue had dried, and they definitely didn't look as beautiful as they had done when I'm sure my mum had played with them. Now, something I didn't know is in the kind of early 1980s, the Julip company sort of split in half. You had the Julip Originals and then you had Julip Horse of the Year. Now, my horses that I purchased with my pocket money in the early 90s were Julip Horse of the Year. Now, these were plastic, they were kind of mass produced, they weren't hand painted, they were all very solid and looked identical to each other. And it's quite an interesting story how the Julip Horse of the Year kind of came about. So when the Julip business was being run by this now elderly couple, there was a lady whose daughter absolutely loved the Julips, who went to school in Paris, and her mum asked if she could sell Julips over there. And she sort of asked if the business would be available and that kind of thing. And I think it took some years, but finally she managed to buy the business and she brought it with her daughter. And together they took, I guess, Julip to the next level by having them made in plastic. Now, one of the reasons they had it done was because there started to be regulations in the 1980s, and Julip Originals were no longer deemed sort of a safe toy for children to play with. So they were very much now classed as a collector's thing. They were kind of a horse model that was for adults, not children. And so I guess this mother-daughter combo had to sort of change it, and that's why they ended up going with plastic and something I guess was also a little bit more durable. These Julip ponies, they go through a hard life. They do a lot of cantering around children's floors and jumping over things, and I guess they felt they needed to make something that could kind of stand up to the hard wearing of being owned by a child. But the Julip Originals did continue, and you sort of got these individuals who can continue to make these beautiful horses from the lead, from the chamois leather, to kind of keep the originals alive, which I love. But they were very much sold only as collector pieces for adults. They were no longer a child's toy. And I believe you can still buy a Julip Original to this day. There is a website and there is a lady that makes them very much how they were made originally, hand paints them. I think they're quite expensive and I think they take quite a long time to be made. But if you want one that looks like the original, go and check her website out. You just Google Julip Originals and you will find it very easily. But as I say, for me as a child in the 90s, I fell in love with the Julip Horse of the Year models. And every time I went to badminton as a child, I used to get so excited about spending my pocket money on a new Julip horse or a new like show jump or something like that, because I don't think I went anywhere else where I could see like the whole Julip collection. So I can remember going into the little stand, because it's always tiny, and just seeing all these ponies and jumps and stable stuff and just being so excited. And then sort of spending the rest of badminton just playing with my new horse. And I was very fortunate because my grandfather was an incredible carpenter, and I had always wanted the Julip 90s horse box to take my Julips to shows. And I remember friends having it. There goes the dishwasher. I remember friends having it and just really wanting it. And one Christmas, my grandpa made me my own Julip horse box, and it was far superior to the actual Julip one. It was the most beautiful thing ever. It had a little living area. You could take the roof off. You could load the Julip horses up. Honestly, it was the best thing ever. I still have it in my parents' attic, and now I'm like, I just want to go and find it. And I also had some stables that he had made for my mum when she was a child. And honestly, these stables were exquisite. They were so beyond beautiful. Like the Julip stuff in the 90s was nice, but it wasn't anything that special. Whereas these stables, they were stalls, they had like actual bedding in there, they had hay nets, the roof came up. All the stable doors looked like actual stable doors, and they had the proper little latches, like the most gorgeous thing. And it turned out my grandpa had actually made my mum and her sisters their own stable blocks. How incredible is that? He was incredibly talented. He actually used to make me show jumps as well. So yeah, he honestly, such a talent my grandpa is when it came to woodwork. But I had this huge collection. I had all the rugs and everything. And yeah, I treated my Julips like they were real ponies. Sadly, Julip Horse of the Year has actually ceased trading, so they can no longer be purchased. So maybe the kind of 80s, 90s, 2000 models will become worth something in the future, who knows? But currently it's the Julip Originals that are worth a lot of money. And I have seen them on eBay with a lot of watches and in people's baskets for anything from £300 to £600 for just one horse. And they're not even in perfect condition either. That doesn't include any tack or anything like that. They're worth a lot of money. There are big collectors out there of Julip Originals. And what I didn't know as well, and I don't know if this still continues, I saw something advertised up to 2022, is that there'd be like Julip Original shows where people would get together with their Julips and they'd sort of create these scenes, and there'd be like prizes. It'd be like a competition who could create the best scene with their Julips. I've also seen videos on YouTube where people have made up a sort of Julip story with their collection. Very sought after. And as I say, I was absolutely blown away with how much money they were fetching. I think I saw a sort of Irish draft type that was about £600. I've seen Arab ponies. I've seen, like every breed you could think of, Julip made it. But Julip Originals are actually quite a rare toy, because I suspect many did get broken and they probably got chucked away. So you don't see that many of them come up for sale. I also saw, I think there was about 4 Julip Originals and an original stable for sale on an auction house from 2023. And even the auctioneer had written just how rare this kind of 4 horses were, and I think they reached about 350 in auction, which actually I don't think was too bad at all, being that I've just said that I'm seeing them on eBay for £300 for like one horse, and for really rare ones £600. Wow. So if you've got them in your attic, you're looking good. I am going to leave the video there. Let me know in the comments, did you have Julip Originals? Have you still got them to this day? Was it your favourite childhood toy? I need to go and do my life-size Julips outside, because they're going to be very grumpy with me because I've left it a little bit late to go and give them their evening hay net. They're going to think I've forgotten them. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you again very soon for another history video.